The house at the edge of the forest, fog hung thick between the towering ancient trees. The cold air pierced to the bone, carrying the scent of damp earth and something more. Rotten. Deep within the untouched wilderness stood a house. Not just any house, but one that held a dark story hidden from the outside world. My name is Rena. I'm a writer searching for inspiration. When I found an advertisement for an old house for rent at a cheap price in the middle of the forest, I was immediately drawn in. I imagined the tranquility. Far from the hustle and bustle of the city, a place where ideas could flow freely. The journey to the house alone sent shivers down my spine. The narrow, winding path, almost completely overgrown with bush, tossed my car around. When the house finally came into view, my heart pounded. It was large, 2 stories, with peeling paint and windows that looked like empty eyes watching. The homeowner, an old man named Mr. Haysen, handed over the keys with a strange look. "This house has been empty for a long time," he said in a hoarse voice. "But don't mind the strange noises. It's just the wind." On the first night, I felt something was wrong. The wind was blowing hard, but the sounds I heard weren't just the wind. There were soft whispers, footsteps on the upper floor, and soft knocks on the window, even though there was nothing outside. As the night wore on, the sounds became clearer. I heard the sound of a woman crying, followed by a terrifying laugh that made my skin crawl. I tried to ignore it, convincing myself it was just my imagination. However, the strange occurrences continued. Doors and windows opened and closed on their own. The lights went off and on for no reason. I even saw strange shadows in the corner of my eye. One night, I woke up to a commotion downstairs. With a pounding heart, I went down to check. In the living room, I saw a rocking chair moving on its own. On the wall, the shadow of a woman hung with a rope around her neck. I screamed and ran back to my room, locking the door tightly. I couldn't sleep all night. The next morning, I decided to find out about the history of the house. In the nearest village, I asked the locals. They were reluctant to talk, but finally an old woman told me the tragic story of the house. It used to be inhabited by a woman named Sari. Her husband was a cruel gambler. Sari was often tortured and locked up in the house. One night, in desperation, Sari ended her life by hanging herself. Since then, the house has been haunted by Sari's spirit. The villagers believe that Sari's spirit is still seeking justice, angry at her tragic death. I decided to leave the house as soon as possible. I didn't care about the rent I had already paid. I didn't want to be the next victim. As I packed, I heard Sari's voice calling my name. "Rena, help me." I ran out of the house, not looking back. I left the house and all the horror within it. After fleeing the cursed house, I returned to the city feeling both relieved and traumatized. I tried to forget all the horrific events, but the image of the house and Sari's voice continued to haunt me. I couldn't sleep soundly, and every time I heard the sound of the wind, I was immediately reminded of the whispers inside the house. I knew I couldn't continue like this. I had to face my fears and find out more about Sari. I felt guilty for leaving her, even though I knew there was nothing I could do to help her. With a firm resolve, I returned to the village where I had asked about the house. I looked for the old woman who had told me Sari's story. At first, she was reluctant to speak again, but after I begged and explained that I wanted to help Sari's spirit, she finally agreed. "That house holds many secrets," she said in a soft voice. "Sari is not at peace because her death was never fully revealed. There are many things her husband hid." The old woman gave me clues about where I could find more information. She told me to look for old records at the village office and talk to some people who knew Sari personally. I followed the clues and spent several days digging up information. About Sari, I found court records showing that Sari's husband, named Herman, had been tried on charges of domestic violence. But the case was closed due to lack of evidence. I also found some love letters between Sari and another man, which indicated that Sari was unhappy in her marriage. From the people who knew Sari, I heard stories about a beautiful, kind, and passionate woman. They said that Sari loved art and music very much, but her talent was suppressed, because Herman forbade her from doing anything that didn't suit his wishes. The more I learned about Sari, the more angry and sad I felt. I felt that I had to do something to help her get justice. I decided to go back to the house. I knew it was dangerous, but I felt that I couldn't run away from my responsibility. That night, I returned to the house at the edge of the forest. The fog hung thick as before, but this time I didn't feel afraid. I felt that Sari was with me, guiding me. I went inside the house and started looking for clues. I checked every room, every corner, every crack. I was looking for something that could prove that Herman was guilty of Sari's death. In the attic, I found an old locked box. With great difficulty, I managed to open it. Inside, I found a diary belonging to Sari. I opened the diary and started reading. In it, Sari wrote about her suffering, about the violence she experienced, and about her forbidden love. On the last page, Sari wrote about her plan to run away with her lover, but she was afraid Herman would find her and kill her. As I read that last page, I heard the sound of footsteps behind me. I turned and saw Herman standing in the doorway with an angry look in his eyes. "What are you doing here?" he asked in a threatening voice. In total darkness, I felt Sari's strength merge with mine. I was no longer afraid. I knew that together we could face Herman. "You can't hide the truth forever. Herman," I said in a voice that was firmer than usual, "Sari will get justice." Herman laughed cynically. "Justice? Sari is dead. No one can prove anything." Suddenly, the lights in the attic flickered back on. In front of me, I saw Herman holding a kitchen knife. His eyes were red and full of anger. "You meddled in my affairs," he said. "You must be stopped." Herman attacked me with the knife. I dodged nimbly, thanks to the strength Sari had given me. I grabbed a wooden stick lying nearby and used it to protect myself. We fought in the narrow, dusty attic. Herman attacked brutally, but I managed to dodge and retaliate. I could feel Sari guiding me, giving me strength and courage. As the fight reached its climax, I managed to wrest the knife from Herman's hand. With a swift movement, I stabbed him in the shoulder. Herman screamed in pain and fell to the floor. I stood over him with the knife raised. "This is for Sari," I said in a trembling voice. However, I couldn't kill him. I wasn't a murderer. I just wanted justice for Sari. I dropped the knife and stepped back. Herman lay on the floor, writhing in pain. Suddenly, Sari's voice echoed throughout the attic. "Don't hurt him, Rena. Let justice determine his fate." I obeyed Sari's words. I called the police and reported the incident. The police arrived and arrested Herman. They also found Sari's diary and used it as evidence in the trial. In court, Herman was found guilty of Sari's murder. He was sentenced to life in prison. Justice was finally served for Sari. Her spirit could rest in peace. After the trial was over, I returned to the house at the edge of the forest. I wanted to say goodbye to Sari. I stood in front of the house and thanked her for her help. I promised never to forget her. Suddenly, the house began to glow. The light grew brighter and brighter, until finally the house disappeared as if it had never existed. I knew that Sari had gone to a better place. She had found the peace she had been searching for. I left the forest with a relieved heart. I knew I had done the right thing. I had helped Sari get justice. Since then, I have continued to write. I write about Sari, about domestic violence, and about the importance of justice. I hope that through my writing, I can help others who are going through similar experiences. The Anwar family decided to start a new life. After years of living in a noisy and polluted city, they decided to move to a quiet and peaceful remote village. Anwar, his wife Layla, and their 2 children, Rena and Budi, were very excited about this new adventure. They bought an old house located on the edge of the village. The house was large and had a spacious yard. Although the house looked a bit worn, they were confident that they could renovate it into a comfortable place to live. On their first day in the new house, they were busy cleaning and arranging things. The children ran around in the yard, enjoying the freedom they didn't have in the city. As dusk began to fall, Anwar decided to clean the old well located behind the house. The well had not been used for a long time and was filled with trash and dry leaves. "Father, be careful," said Rena, who accompanied her father. "That well looks creepy," Anwar laughed. "Don't worry, Rena. Father will be fine." Anwar began to clean the well carefully. He removed the trash and dry leaves one by one. When he reached the bottom of the well, he found something strange. A large stone with strange carvings. Anwar tried to lift the stone, but it was too heavy. He asked Rina for help, but they still couldn't lift it. "It seems this stone has been here for a long time," said Anwar. "Let's just leave it for now." They decided to end their work and return to the house. As they walked towards the house, Rina suddenly stopped. "Father, listen," she said. "There's a sound." Anwar listened carefully. He heard a soft whispering sound coming from inside the well. "It must just be the wind," said Anwar, trying to reassure his daughter. But Rina shook her head. "No, Father. The voice is like it's calling our names." Anwar and Rina looked at each other with fear. They knew something was wrong with that old well. After hearing the whispers from the well, Anwar and Rina returned to the house feeling uneasy. They told Layla and Booty about the incident, but Layla didn't believe their story. "You two must just be imagining things," said Layla. "There's no way there. Could be a voice from inside the well." However, Anwar couldn't ignore his feelings. He felt there was something strange about the well, especially the large stone with the strange carvings they found at the bottom. The next day, Anwar decided to find out the meaning of the carvings on the stone. He went to the village library and looked for books about the history and legends of the village. After searching for several hours, Anwar finally found a book that contained a picture of the same carvings as those on the stone in the well. According to the book, the carvings were an ancient symbol used by the indigenous tribe that once inhabited the village. The symbol represented the gatekeeper between the human world and the spirit world. Anwar was shocked by the discovery. He began to believe that the old well was not just an ordinary well, but a gateway to another world. That night, Anwar couldn't sleep soundly. He kept thinking about the old well and the stone carvings. He felt that there was something that the spirits inhabiting the well wanted to convey. In the middle of the night, Anwar woke up to the sound of whispers that were becoming clearer. The voice was calling his name in an urgent tone. Anwar couldn't resist anymore. He got out of bed and walked towards the old well behind the house. When he arrived in front of the well, he saw Rina was already there. Rina looked pale and frightened. "Father, I heard the voice too," said Rina. "It's calling us." Anwar and Rina looked at each other. They knew they had to find out what was really happening inside that old well. Carefully, Anwar and Rina approached the well and peeked inside. They saw something that shocked them. At the bottom of the well, the large stone with the strange carvings began to glow. The light grew brighter and brighter, until finally it formed a portal connecting the well to another world. From inside the portal appeared strange figures resembling humans, but with glowing red eyes and pale skin. The figures stared at Anwar and Rina with hungry eyes. "Welcome," said one of the figures in a hoarse voice. "We have been waiting for your arrival for a long time." Anwar and Rina stared in, shocked at the figures emerging from the glowing portal at the bottom of the well. The figures, with their red eyes and pale skin, sent shivers down their spines. "Welcome," one of the figures rasped. "We have been waiting a long time for your arrival." Anwar, trying to protect his daughter, stepped forward. "Who are you? What do you want?" The figure smiled, revealing sharp, pointed teeth. "We are the guardians of this well, the spirits of those who once lived in this village. We have been trapped here for centuries, waiting for someone to open the gate." Rina clutched her father's arm, trembling with fear. "Father, let's go." This is not right, but Anwar was too curious to leave. "What gate? What do you mean?" "This well is a portal to our world," the figure explained. "A world of eternal darkness and despair. We need a sacrifice to open the gate completely and allow us to cross over into your world." Anwar's eyes widened in horror. "A sacrifice? We would never do that." The figures began to advance, their eyes glowing brighter. "You have no choice. You have awakened us, and now you must pay the price." Suddenly, Layla and Booty appeared, running towards the well. "Anwar, Rina!" "What's going on?" Layla shouted. The figures turned their attention to Layla and Booty. "More sacrifices!" "Excellent!" Anwar knew he had to act fast. He grabbed Rena's hand and shouted to his wife, "Layla, take Booty and run! Get out of here." Layla, realizing the danger, grabbed Booty and ran back towards the house. Anwar and Rena stood their ground, facing the menacing figures. "You will not harm my family?" Anwar yelled, his voice filled with determination. The figures lunged at Anwar and Rena, their claws outstretched. Anwar pushed Rena behind him and prepared to fight, knowing that the fate of his family, and perhaps the world, rested on his shoulders. Anwar stood his ground, protecting Rena from the approaching figures. Layla and Booty ran back towards the house, terrified. "You will not touch my family," Anwar yelled, grabbing the stick he had brought with him. The figures attacked. Anwar swung his stick, hitting several of them, but there were too many. They clawed and bit at him, and he felt his life force draining away. Inside the house, Layla frantically searched for her phone. She had to call the police, but she was too scared to go outside. Booty clung to her tightly, crying. Back at the well, Anwar was overwhelmed. He fell to the ground, the figures swarming over him. He saw Rena, paralyzed with fear, as they reached for her. "No!" Anwar screamed, summoning the last of his strength. He pushed the figures away from Rena and stood, staggering. "Take me, leave her alone." The figures paused, looking at each other. Then one of them smiled. An interesting proposition. They seized Anwar, dragging him towards the glowing portal. Rena screamed, trying to pull him back, but she was too weak. "Father!" she cried. Anwar looked at Rena, tears streaming down his face. "I love you, Rena. Take care of your mother and Booty." With that, he was dragged through the portal and disappeared. The portal began to dim and the figures vanished with him. Rena collapsed to her knees, sobbing. Her father had sacrificed himself to save her. Suddenly, Layla and Booty ran back, armed with a stick and a kitchen knife. They saw Rena kneeling in front of the well and realized what had happened. "Omar!" Layla screamed, running towards the well. Rena grabbed her. "Mom, don't. They've already taken him. There's nothing we can do." Layla fell to her knees beside Rena, weeping. Booty hugged them both, tears streaming down his face as well. As they grieved, the well began to rumble. The ground shook and cracks appeared around the well. "We have to go." Rena screamed. "The well is going to collapse." Layla and Booty got to their feet, and the three of them ran back towards the house, just as the well caved in, disappearing into a dark and bottomless pit. The Anwar family had lost everything. They had lost their home, their safety, and most importantly, their father and husband, but they still had each other. They knew that they had to leave that village. It was too dangerous, too full of bad memories. They would find a new place to start over, a place where they could forget the horrors of the old well. But they knew that they would never forget Anwar's sacrifice. He had given everything to save them, and they would honor his memory by living their lives to the fullest, loving each other and never giving up hope.